Eli's sons were wicked men. They had no regard for the Lord. Eli himself was not wicked, but his sons were. And Eli's failure was to restrain his son's evil influence. Now, it was the practice of the priests with the people. These are the priests. These are the sons of Levi, the priests. That whenever anyone offered a sacrifice, and while the meat was being boiled, the servant of the priest, some random dude, I guess, whoever was assigned this task, would come with a 3-pronged fork in his hand. He would plunge it into the pan or kettle or cauldron or pot, and the priest would take for himself whatever the fork brought up. That was a big no-no. Let's read about some of those sacrifices. Let's just read a couple of verses here in the first few chapters of Leviticus. The burnt offering at the beginning of beginning of Leviticus. The burnt offering, Leviticus 1 verse 9, he, the priest, is to wash the inner part. So he's killed the animal, they've cut it up into pieces, they've arranged it on the altar, and the priest is to burn all of it on the altar. So they're not supposed to get any of that. And you have the grain offering, fellowship offering. Now they could have some of the food. Let's read here and down in Leviticus 7. Let's see here. The priests were supposed to have some of the food from some of these offerings. The Lord said to Moses, this is Leviticus 7:28, say to the Israelites, anyone who brings a fellowship offering to the Lord is to bring part of it as his sacrifice to the Lord. With his own hands he is to bring the offering made to the Lord by fire. He is to bring the fat together with the breast, and wave the breast before the Lord as a wave offering. The priest shall burn the fat on the altar, but the breast belongs to Aaron and his sons. You are to give the right thigh of your fellowship offerings to the priest as a contribution. The son of Aaron who offers the blood and the fat of the fellowship offering shall have the right thigh as his share. From the fellowship offering to the Israelites, I have taken the breast that is waved and the thigh that is presented, and have given them to Aaron the priest and his sons as their regular share from the Israelites. So the priests were to get the breast and the right thigh. They were not to get the fat, and for some of the offerings were burnt up entirely. The whole burnt offering was burnt up entirely. Even the ones that were not burnt up entirely, no one got the fat. The fat was the Lord's. The priests were to get the breast and the right thigh. Here, they're sticking a fork in there and taking whatever they can get out of it before it's even burned. And that is a definite no-no, a direct strike against what God is telling them to do. This is how they treated all the Israelites who came to Shiloh. But even before the fat was burned, remember the fat was the Lord's portion no matter what. Even the sacrifices that weren't entirely burned up to God, no one got to eat the fat. That was God's portion of the sacrifice. Even before the fat was burned, the servant of the priest would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, give the priest some meat to roast. He won't accept boiled meat from you, only raw. If the man said to him, let the fat be burned up first, and then take whatever you want. So this guy, whoever this hypothetical worshiper is trying to do it the right way. He's trying to offer the portion of the offering that should be offered to God, the fat. But the servant would then answer, no, hand it over now. If you don't, I'll take it by force. This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they, or men, were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. This is God's portion of the offering. The fat from the fellowship offering, and of course the entire whole burnt offering, this was God's portion of the offering. They were treating it with contempt. But Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod. Now the ephod had originally been, and still was, I'm sure, a specific garment for the high priest. We read about that in Exodus when they made this ephod strictly for Aaron, and his sons got tunics. The regular priest got tunics. The high priest got an ephod. It seems as though over time, the regular priests, not the high priest, but the other priests, started wearing ephods themselves. I don't even really know what an ephod is. Some sort of covering for the breast and chest area, I guess. I don't know. But it seems as though, as time went on, the regular priests, the non-high priests, began wearing probably a less decorative, plainer version of the ephods. They weren't just wearing these tunics any longer like they were at first. Each year, his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when she went up with her husband to offer the annual sacrifice. So she hasn't forgotten Eli. She knows that he's a growing boy and needs new clothes every year. So she makes him one every year. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord give you children by this woman, to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord." Then they would go home. And the Lord was gracious to Hannah. She conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. So she had 6 children total. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. That's all we ever hear of Hannah. But there is an interesting little detail. Hannah is gone from the story. That's the last we'll ever hear of her. They would have seen each other, Samuel and Hannah, every year when Hannah came up as part of her, pilgrimage, until I guess Hannah died, whenever that happened. But her influence isn't gone from Samuel, because Samuel is going to be identified with his robes for the entire rest of his life and even beyond. Even at the very end of his life, when he and Saul are having their final dispute for the last time, it involves the tearing of Samuel's robe. And even later, when the witch of Endor, Saul goes to talk to a lady who consults with spirits, and she actually somehow summons the ghost of Samuel. I think God allows the ghost of Samuel to appear in front of Saul one last time. He's identified by his robe, by the clothes he's wearing. I don't know if it's the same robe that his mother left him with the last time she gave him one. I don't know. I don't know. How, every year apparently she went there and gave him a new robe because he would have grown out of the previous one. Obviously this would not have been necessary once he stopped growing, and she wouldn't have been able to do it once she stopped living, which at some point she would have during his lifetime. So I don't know when she gave him the last one of these robes. Obviously there would have come a point in time when she gave him the last one, and either she died or he outgrew them or whatever, and he didn't get any more from her. So I don't know, and however old he was at that time, and whatever condition that robe was in, which ended up being the last one she gave him, I don't know. But he is going to be identified with his robes all throughout his life and even beyond. So even though we never hear about Hannah again, you can still see the influence of her over her son, even to the very end of his life, and in the grave as a ghost. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel, and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So they're doing even worse than that. They're now engaging in sexual immorality involving whatever women were allowed to do. I don't know what they were allowed to do. There was no role prescribed for women back in the law of Moses. I don't know what they found for them to do in those days. Something, I guess. So it's even worse than we thought before. So he said to them, "Why do you do these things? I hear from all the people about these wicked deeds of yours. No, my sons, it is not a good report that I hear spreading among the Lord's people. If a man sins against another man, God, or the judges, may mediate for him. But if a man sins against the Lord, who will intercede for him?" That's the question now, isn't it? Who will intercede for man before the Lord? That's what Job wanted to know. How many times, when we read through the book of Job, how many times did we hear Job ask, "I need someone to present my case before God. Someone out there somewhere, please, someone come and enter and plead for me in front of the face of God, in front of God. That's the same thing Eli is mentioning here. Who's going to mediate? Who's going to stand between? How can we, as men, sinning against God, stand against God? Well, we can't. We need someone in there to stand in the way and present our case before God and plead on our behalf. That's the question, though, isn't it? That's what the rest of the book is going to be about answering. It's how to answer that question. His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke, for it was the Lord's will to put them to death. God has had enough of these guys, and he is going to allow them to continue in their wicked ways until it's time to take action against them, and that will set about his plans for the next phase of Israel's history. It's not going to be good for Israel. Well, I mean, it will be in the long run. It's not going to be pleasant. When he does take action against these sons, it's going to be part of a broader plan to bring Israel low, and they're not going to like it. They're not going to like what's going to happen. Eli's not going to like it. The sons aren't going to like it. Eli's family's not going to like it. The rest of Israel's not going to like it. But God is going to take action to restrain this evil influence eventually. But for now, he's letting them continue, so that when the time comes to take action, it will be decisive. And the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with men. That sounds an awful lot like what Luke will say about Jesus as a boy in the temple, going home with his parents in Luke, 1,000+ years down the road from now, isn't it? Why do you? Yes, go away. Just go away. My goodness. Let's continue reading, actually. Now a man of God came to Eli and said to him, I don't know who this is, just a man of God, someone speaking a message from God. That's all we know about this guy. Don't know where he came from, don't know what his hometown was, don't know what his name was, don't know where he went afterwards. That's just it. So this is what he says. This is what the Lord says. This is a direct oracle from God to Eli. God is speaking here through this guy, did I not reveal myself clearly to your father's house when they were in Egypt under Pharaoh? I chose your father, he's talking about Aaron here, out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to go up to my altar, to burn incense, and to wear an ephod in my presence. I also gave your father's house all the offerings made with fire by the Israelites. We read about that a moment ago, didn't we? Why do you... The Hebrew is plural, according to our footnotes down here. Why do you, your family, scorn my sacrifice and offering that I prescribe from my dwelling? Why do you honor your sons more than honor me by fattening yourselves on the choice parts of every offering made by my people Israel? Therefore, the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, if you want to go check out what happened, go check out what happened. Okay. Oh, God. Man, oh man, these cats. They have been in quite a mood today. Therefore, the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that your house and your father's house would minister before me forever. But now the Lord declares, far be it from me. Those who honor me I will honor, but those who despise me will be despised. The time is coming when I will cut short your strength and the strength of your father's house. So there will not be an old man in your family line, and you will see distress in my dwelling. So everyone's going to die young, in other words. Although good will be done to Israel. In your family line there will never be an old man. Every one of you that I do not cut off from my altar will be spared only to blind your eyes with tears, and to grieve your heart, and all your descendants will die in the prime of life. And what happens to your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, will be a sign to you. They will both die on the same day. I will raise up for myself a faithful priest, who will do according to what is in my heart and mind. I will firmly establish his house, and he will minister before my anointed one always. Then everyone left in your family line will come and bow down before him for a piece of silver and a crust of bread, and they will plead, appoint me to some priestly office, so that I can have food to eat. So he's going to bring down Eli's family line and raise up another family line in his place. This is not talking about Samuel, because Samuel himself is not of a priestly line. I think Samuel will serve as a sort of priest in the interim. But the person he's talking about here, this faithful priest, has to be somebody else. The anointed one is probably David, the king that's going to come along a little bit later in his house, which will be the covenant that God will make with David to have a man on the throne forever in David's line. So that's probably David, and so the priest that he's talking about is probably the high priest who will serve under David. It seems like you'd think he'd be talking about Samuel here, but he can't be talking about Samuel because Samuel is not a priest of the proper lineage and will not have a line of priests that follow him. Will not have a line of priests that follow him in office afterwards.